Just waiting for everyone to get in after the ad. Yo, what's going on? It is 1 p.m. here in Crystal Lake, Illinois. It's time for another live stream. Today is Monday. What's today? February 10th, 2025. I think that's the correct date. It's the day after the Super Bowl. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. We only kind of watched it last year. This year, we didn't even really bother turning it on. We did watch the halftime show, though. The halftime show was pretty good. My daughter wanted to watch the halftime show. I also wanted to watch the halftime show. But that's all we tuned in for. So, you know, I'm feeling great on this Monday. Hopefully you guys are feeling great too. Today we got a little mukbang going on. Right now I ran out of time this morning, so I'm kind of doing it I just put boiling water into the ramen, put a plate on top of it to let it steep for a little while. We'll eat that in a minute, but we're going to be tasting plant-based ramen. Immi ramen. I-M-M-I. See, they sent it to me last week. We're giving it a taste test today. We'll try that soon. But first, let's say hi to everyone listening on the audio-only version of the podcast. You guys got a whole bunch of me humming today. I feel like that's been the strategy that I'm using to try and make it so that everyone gets to come in right at the beginning of the episode. Hopefully you didn't get too many ads before the episode started. But anyone on the audio-only version, you just heard me humming for a whole bunch. But in case you're wondering why there's humming on a running podcast, it's just that's why. And for everyone else watching this later but not live, welcome to the #1 running live stream that plays a daily game of Hum It. Or not daily, but every time we play, we're going to start playing Hum It. I'll pick a different song. You got to figure out what song I hummed. But yeah. All right. Let's see who we got in the chat here. Mark Peterson is here. He says, hi, everyone. And Frank says, I'm doing leftover mushroom and zucchini risotto for lunch. That sounds delicious. Risotto is underrated as a high-carb meal. I would agree with that. You know what I don't like about risotto, though? Risotto is probably the most work to time spent eating food that I can think of. It just feels like a lot of work every time I make it. And I know there's like no-stir risottos and stuff, but it doesn't feel like that's the same, you know? Vanessa Martinez said, hi, y'all. Mukbang Monday. I'm eating noodles for lunch as well. Broccoli fettuccine Alfredo. Hope it goes well for go with the ramen. Broccoli fettuccine Alfredo sounds good. So my daughters are very much into pasta. For the longest time, they did not like cream sauce. They only liked red sauce. And now they're starting to get into the Alfredos. They're realizing that that's tasty. But I can't get them to put the broccoli in there. They're such food separators. I think that they get it from my wife. But they don't want food to mix. They hate mixing foods. So like pasta with the sauce, fine. Broccoli, not exactly fine, but they tolerate it. Mixing the two, they would never do. It's a weird thought to them. I don't know. All right. Alf Dickinson chiming in from London says, evening from London town. It's raining. Woohoo. Is that good? I just feel like raining in February just sounds miserable. All right. Pete G 1980 says he just bought the Bondi 9. So I was supposed to test the Bondis yesterday, but I don't know if you guys can still hear it, but I feel it. I'm fine when I'm not doing a lot of talking, but I've had this sinus infection for a while. And I felt like I was getting better. I felt like I was better before I went to Miami a couple weeks ago. And I was better in Miami. Although when I ran that race, I kind of felt it. And then when I got back, I felt worse. But I was like, yeah, I'm almost done with this cold. I'm just going to start running again. So then I ran like a normal workload last week. And it just kept getting worse. So I'm like, oh boy. So I went to immediate care yesterday. That took a long time. And now I'm on antibiotics. So I didn't run yesterday. Yeah, I kind of want to run today. But I also really need to kick this cold before I'm leaving for Africa on Friday. So like I don't want to be well, I want to make sure I can get into all the countries that I'm trying to travel to. And if I'm coughing and stuff, I don't know how that's going to go. And I also don't want to be coughing on an airplane that's transatlantic, you know? So I got to get better. But I want to try the Bondi 9. I'm ready to go. Just, I've got it all my B-rolls filmed. I'm ready to rock in it. But anyway, Pete, is it different? Is it different from the Bondi 8? I have a feeling everything's changed about the Bondi. Here's my prediction. Everything's changed about the Bondi 9, but it's still pretty much a Bondi. Let me know if I'm wrong, though. Yeah, Frank says urgent care is always only sort of urgent. I mean, it feels like you're going, at least with like the immediate care that I went to, you kind of got seen in order that you came in. When you go to like an emergency room, it's triage, right? The worst people go first, which makes sense. But at least I had an idea how long I was going to take. But I did bring a laptop and I did some work while I was in there, you know. Eric says, my hard line is if I don't have a fever or a bad headache, then I can run. See, I've never had I had a sinus infection. I haven't had a fever or headache. I'm just like, sinuses are messed up. My snot is all goopy and gross. And it's making me have a sore throat because of the drainage and stuff. So, you know, I feel fine running, but I just feel like I need to give my body more rest. I don't know. Andrew says, I don't know, Co. A Moroccan pharmacy could be a fun adventure. It could be. It's interesting. Yeah, you could get in all sorts of interesting adventures in Morocco, I think. Matthew Rand says, like, the worst part is the runny nose on all your runs when you get back out there. Yeah, see, my nose isn't like running like crazy. I mean, I kind of feel the best when I'm running. But I don't know. I just feel like it's probably not a good idea. I'll rest one more day. I'll go out there tomorrow. But then I do have to test those Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glides because I'm thinking about bringing those to Africa. I think I'm going to bring those and the Tecton X3s to Africa. Tecton X3s because I like them. And they have the gator. And I'm worried about sand. So I feel like that'll work. I don't have a separate gator. So like if the Ultra Glides get too sandy, then I won't, you know. So I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But I need to test that. And it's going to snow Wednesday night here, I think. Wednesday night into Thursday. So I think for my Thursday run, the day before I leave for Africa, then I think I'll test the Ultra Glide. In snow, it's going to be very different than desert. But it'll give me an idea of like how it's like in some messy conditions. I don't know. Brian Lacanilao says, hey, Co, you get this question from time to time. What do you like for a long run shoe? So like the Super Blast 2, Glycerin Max. What do you thought on Cloud Monster Hyper? I love the Super Blast 2 for long runs. I think it's great. I think the Glycerin Max is not really a long run shoe for me. I mean, if it's a long, easy run, yes. If it's a long run where I've got some work in it, maybe not. I think the Puma Mag Max is also really good. Invincible is great. Cloud Monster Hyper, I don't like the Cloud Monster Hyper. It's not bad, but it's very expensive, and I don't know why it's not the Cloud Monster 2. Like, why did they make the Cloud Monster 2 and then also Cloud Monster Hyper in the same year but months apart? Like, that seems weird to me. They shouldn't have done that. They should have just made the Cloud Monster Hyper the Cloud Monster 2. I don't think that there's a huge difference between those two shoes. So, yeah. Cloud Monster Hyper just feels like a big daily trainer to me. So, I'm not a huge fan of that one. Calvin says, I probably could have ran these past few days, but I was worried it would trigger a worse response, and then I'd be out for even longer versus focusing on recovery. That's kind of where I'm at, you know. All right, Andrew Scott said, ads. Matt Byer got an ad midstream. I turned on monetization. Have you guys never gotten ads in the middle of the stream before? That's weird. I turned it on in a different way from the studio. Maybe that's what did it. Ah, interesting. A lot of you guys got an ad in the middle. Huh. I'll have to go see how. I don't remember how I did it differently, but I'll have to see because I don't like midstream ads. Yeah, Frank says the start of the ad was super short, but there was a midstream ad. Okay, I'll have to check on that. I was just clicking on a bunch of things. Let me fix that. I can't fix it. I don't know how to fix it in the middle of the stream. Matthew Rand says, "Do you have a fall marathon planned yet?" I don't. I'm pretty sure I'm running Sydney. I have to talk with some people first about it. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna try to go with sports tours again, but we'll have to actually have the discussions, you know. So James Johnson wants to know what part of Morocco. Well, we start in Casablanca. Casablanca. That's like the Midwest way of saying Casablanca. Casablanca. And then we will run in one place every day and then travel the next morning. I think that's kind of how it works. I think it's, yeah, travel then run, not run then travel, which I think makes sense because then you're not smelly on the bus. But yeah, so we'll be going through a different place every day. So we'll go to Marrakesh. We'll see some ruins. We'll see the place where they filmed Gladiator. That's something that they told us about. I'll ride a camel. So it's a different place every day. And then we got to fly back from the last stop back to Casablanca before I head home. And I think that's going to be like on a little regional jet. And in my mind, I'm sure it's just going to be like fine, like a regular regional jet. But in my mind, I'm envisioning the planes in like Indiana Jones. You know, when they have Indiana Jones goes on a plane and then it's semi-transparent and then there's a map with the red dot and line. Da, 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 da. I feel like it's going to be like one of those prop planes, you know? I hope so. CV7060, do you have global entry with TSA PreCheck? I do. I got it a couple of trips ago, but it's been really nice to have. James Johnson wants to know, do I have any protein targets every day? I do not. I'm pretty bad about my nutrition. I don't keep track of it a lot, which I should do much better with since I am mostly vegetarian. But I don't. And so, yeah, that's why I've been taking an iron supplement, a vitamin D supplement, and a vitamin B supplement lately. Because I just don't think I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I should be getting enough vitamin D with how much milk and cheese I eat. But the last time I got a blood test, it said it was low. So I take those 3 supplements, probably because I'm not eating properly, you know. Jacob D says, I ran my highest distance in January and my legs hurt a little now. Friend, let me try this Normatex. Friend, let me try his Normatex, and they seem to help. But placebos for the win. Yeah, I feel like it's not my idea, but I think that someone else was saying like we don't pay enough attention to how important placebos are. And so I agree. I'm like, the downside of placebos is placebos can give you a good effect, but also they can give you a side effect as well. And so that's the hard part. But the idea with like, hey, let's research placebo effect more in humans is that like, well, what if you can give someone something for, say, their sinus infection and it has a placebo effect, but it would have, in theory, 0 side effects. So like medicine with 0 side effects because you're giving them a sugar pill. But yeah, I don't think anyone's, well, maybe someone is doing that research, but I don't know. Eric Paramount says, I love snakes. Indiana Jones didn't like snakes. Have I told you this before, guys? That so when we were pregnant with my first child, who ended up being a girl, we didn't know what we were going to have. We didn't know what we were going to have with either of our kids. So it was a surprise in the delivery room. But I was thinking that if we had a boy, here's how I was thinking. I would name a boy, I would name him Michael. So I would have her Junior. And I would also need to have a dog. and I would name the dog Indiana. But then we ended up having a dog named Buddy and not Indiana. And so I was like, well, what if I have a son and he calls himself Buddy Co? And people were like, where'd Buddy come from? And then someone would laugh and say, and then I would come in and say, like, Buddy was the dog's name. That was like my dream, very, very long dream. But it never worked out because we had girls. Oh, I think if we had I forget what names we had picked out for if it was a boy, because we did have boys' names picked out. I think it probably would have been Michael. So, yeah. Vanessa says, if you need more iron, you got to get more greens. More greens? Was that where the iron is? So just spinach? Okay. Matthew Wren says, a nice review today on the Nimbus 27. I went with the Books Glycerin Max. Okay. Cool. All right. This ramen has been steeping in boiling water for a little while now, and it seems to be soft enough to let it go. So the flavor is beef in quotation marks, because it is a plant-based ramen. So beef is the flavor, but there's no beef in it. There is 24 grams of protein in this per serving, and one package is one serving. And you know what else it has? 20 grams of carbs, so that's something. And it has 900 milligrams of salt. Most ramen has in the 1,000 milligram range, or I guess gram range. And I always feel like, is ramen a good carb loading food? I feel like it should be. I mean, there's other stuff in there that maybe makes it not great for the day before a race, but I feel like, I don't know, 20 grams of carbs, 1,000 milligrams of milligrams of salt. Seems like a pretty good number to me. All right. It smells like pho. It doesn't smell like just beef ramen. It has that cilantro flavor in it, or smell to it anyway. So these noodles have a very different texture than what I'm used to for ramen noodles, and that part of it might be the way that I've cooked it by just putting some hot water in here and not boiling it. But the noodles have texture of gluten-free pasta. So we have someone in our family that is gluten-free. So every time I make pasta, I make two, and every time I taste the gluten-free pasta to see if it's done, it kind of has this texture. And I don't love it for ramen noodles, because for ramen noodles, I like the chewiness of the ramen noodles. I don't know what they use to get it to do that. It's not bicarb, is it? That's what makes pretzels have that outer crust. Well, I think it's a lie for industrially made pretzels. But at home, if you make a pretzel, you use baking soda. That's what gives it the crust. I don't know if that's what it is in ramen noodles, but the texture is very different. And overall, it smells and has a flavor, the broth. Yeah, like the noodles are thinner too than most ramen noodles, thinner than Ichiban. And it kind of reminds me of every time I've tried like Thai ramen or other ramens from Southeast Asia, the noodles tend to be much thinner. I don't know if it's a preference or a coincidence in terms of where they're made or what, but that's something that it reminds me of. So the noodles are thinner than like a Sapporo Ichiban, and the beef broth tastes less like Ichiban beef broth flavor or the original flavor, and more like an instant pho type of flavor. So that's what's going on here. Overall, I'm pretty good. I like it. I'm still a huge fan of Shin Ramen. That's my favorite. And so, like, it's very different than that. So, But if I'm comparing it to like an Ichiban or even a Manchuran, like that one, I'd go with this because it feels like it's healthier. It's plant based. It's got protein in it. The flavor is about kind of similar caliber, I would say. That's my thoughts on it. Vanessa says gluten free doesn't have the same toothness feel when you chew them. Exactly. It's like Brian Lang says, nice slurp. He's a pro, guys. And Steve says, see that break out the spreadsheet. There's not going to be a ramen spreadsheet. I don't know. Stevie76 says Kavuzi is definitely elite chopsticks. Is it because of the metal? I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't think they're that much harder to use. My wife uses them. I also have wooden chopsticks that I usually give. Well, I give my daughter, my older daughter gets wooden chopsticks. I got them, they're just novelty from a souvenir shop in Japan. So I got a bunch of those and she usually gets that. The baby gets little plastic ones and they insert into this little like silicone piece that holds them together for you. So she gets that. And then my wife usually gets the wooden ones, or sometimes I'll give her some metal ones, but usually I give her the wooden ones. All right. Melvin Yuming says, yo, what's going on, Koenko fam? Just wondering how you compare the New Balance Rebel version 4 and the Puma Deviate Nitro 2s. I know the New Balance already and seeing the Deviate Nitro 2s on sale. Wondering if it's worth pulling the trigger. The Rebel 4s and the Deviate Nitro 2s are pretty different. The Deviate Nitro 2 is pretty similar to the Deviate Nitro 3. There are some slight shaping differences, and the outsole is pretty different between the 2 and 3 and the Deviates. But it's a very similar shoe, set up very similarly. And that is on the firm side for easy running. And the Rebel 4 is on the very squishy side. And so I would say that like those two would make a good pair together. So like from the squishy and slow to faster and firm, they would have a little bit of overlap in terms of the speed category, but like the Rebel is soft and then the Deviate Nitro is firm and fast. So that's kind of how it looks. I mean, yes, you can run fast in the Rebel 4, but it has like a squishy fast feel to it, kind of like trying to run fast in a Nova Blast. Whereas the Deviate Nitro 2 has more of a fast feel, like kind of like more akin to running in a plated carbon shoe. That's how I'd separate those two. CB6 says YouTube celebrities at the Mesa Half. I really wish I could have been at the Mesa Half this year. It looked super fun. I was in Mesa for the marathon last year, coincidentally, visiting my in-laws because they're in Chandler, I think, for the winter. I was just there. I went there before I went to Florida. Just the timing was off for this year. But in the half marathon, there was Rory Linkletter won on the men's side, but Haptamu Cheney was also there. Adam Wood was there. I believe Skeleton Runner was also there. He runs for Bat City in Austin. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he has an Instagram. And then on the women's side, Ali Ostrander was there. She came in fourth. And I'm trying to think of who else. Were the Woods there? Yeah, they were there. No, Mike Otteson was also there on the men's side. That's why I'm late today, is because I had an interview with Ali O. So we were just talking before this, and it went a little bit longer than I had planned. And so I didn't have enough time to make the ramen properly. But that's some behind the scenes. But yeah, there was a lot of people at the half. Kellen Taylor ran there. She ran in Alpha Flies, by the way. Which makes me think, I feel like Oh yeah, Gino DG says Philly was there as well. Yeah. The Hemmings were there. Yeah. So like, yeah, there's a lot of people. Eric said that Eli ran the Black Canyon 100. Yeah, the Black Canyon was also that same weekend. I don't know if next year's my year. Maybe next year I can run Black Canyon. I'm gonna sign up for it as soon as the sign up's open. I'm gonna try to run it next year. I think we'll figure out the calendar later. But also, if a lot of people are gonna keep going to Mesa, maybe I'll just watch the Mesa half marathon. I don't know, but and Brian says the Atlanta Run Club had a big group at Mesa Half. Yeah, I feel like it's a downhill race, right? It's like 200 feet of downhill. Maybe I'll run the Mesa Half. I would like to run that. I like running downhill. But yeah, it looks like there was a lot of people there. Looks like it would have been a fun day. I wish I would have been there. Eric says, "Do it." I want to run. I do. I had a conversation with Jamil about it at TRE, a long one. I don't know how long it was. It was late in the evening, after a couple of happy hours. I think I talked to Zero off. Maybe I don't know. Shaheen says, "Hey, Co, I recently saw your recovery from runner's knee video, and I was wondering how long did it take you to recover from it?" I don't know. That was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I'm not sure. I don't remember. It wasn't overnight. So I remember when I was, number one, the full context of that video, it was during the pandemic, and I couldn't have gone to see a PT. If I had a PT available to me, that is what I would have done. And I, number one, recommend that if you think you have runner's knee, go to a PT. Or go to an orthopod, someone that could diagnose what you actually have, so you're not guessing like I guessed for a couple of months. That's number one. Number two, I remember in doing my research, people would say, "Oh, I had IT band syndrome, and then I did this one day, and the next day I could run again." Or people would say, "I had runner's knee, and I did this glute activation, and by the next day I could run again." So people were saying like overnight things were completely different, just by doing some sort of weird movement. And that did not happen to me at all. It took a while, weeks probably. And I basically, in that time, what I was doing was I could run for maybe half an hour before the pain started to get to me. So I would run like 35 minutes. And I would run as much as I could before it started hurting. And in the meantime, I was doing a lot of that kind of rehab PT type of stuff. But so it took weeks, I would say, to get healed. But I remember it starting to feel better relatively soon. Because I could feel it, that it was working through the range of motion of the exercise I was doing, if I remember. Shannon chimes in, "Hey, co-fam, did someone say glute activation?" I still don't really know what glute activation is. But the best way I can think of it is, like, imagine you've been sitting in a long car ride that was in a car that was very full for a long time. You would not feel great getting up out of the car and trying to run fast right away. You would want to move and stretch a little bit, or just get uncramped from the car. And I feel like if you did start running in that motion at in that moment before you could recover from sitting in the car for a long time, you would run funny. And if you keep running funny, your body's going to complain. And I feel like glute activation is a way of saying like, hey, you've been sitting at a desk for a long time and you didn't do your glute activations before you started running. And so we couldn't run right. And now you ran not right for a long time. And now we got a problem. You know, so I feel like glute activations were just stretching. Make sure your body's limber and ready to run. And I mean, I've been thinking about glute activations kind of tangentially lately a lot, because I thought about my 5K race that I just did. I thought about the half marathon. And then I've also been thinking about my PR races, where I tend to go out slow and kind of like then start to hurry up. And I was thinking like, that's maybe just how I race. I need to ease into the race. But then another part of me is like, I just need to warm up better. Much longer warm up, much more intensity in the warm up. Almost get tired in the warm up and then race. And then my body will be primed to race. So I'm like tinkering around with some of the idea. And I think my plan of trying to run more, race more 5Ks, I think that'll help to kind of experiment and tinker with some of these ideas. TV76 says, I swear I heard Kendrick Lamar rap about glute activation during last night's Super Bowl halftime show. If he did, half of the people watching wouldn't have got it. And Brian says, the Cozy Run Club's unofficial marathon this year is Carmel Marathon if everyone wants to show up. When is the Carmel Marathon, Brian? When is that? Alex says, "Co with a zinger." I love it. Alex, you must have been happy. You were working for the Eagles, weren't you? At the bus stop, I do feel pretty good about it. That at the bus stop, there's there's I guess 6 families at the bus stop. 2 of them live across the street from the bus stop, so they come out at the last minute. But of the people that have to walk to the bus stop and hang out there, there's usually a solid crew of 4 people. And today it was 1 mom and 3 dads. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I feel like, all right, let's go dads. And then all the dads, or I guess the other 2 dads were talking about the game last night. I'm like, I hope they don't ask me a question. Because I don't want to have to admit that I didn't watch it. Because I feel like I'm an odd bird as it is. People are like, you didn't even watch the Super Bowl? My neighbors, the retirees, they had a bunch of people over for the Super Bowl yesterday. Yeah. I had an excuse ready though. If they were like, how come you didn't watch the Super Bowl? Yesterday, something happened with our water heater. We don't have hot water right now. The error it's throwing out is gas valve something needs checking. And so we had a plumber have to come out during the Super Bowl. Came right during the halftime show. He didn't have the part to fix it. So we're still waiting. They're supposed to get back to us today. I don't know. Shannon says she's got a few teammates going to Carmel. I've heard it's one of the faster spring courses, but it can get warm and windy. Oh. Eric says that the Carmel Marathon is April 19th. What's my calendar say? I might be gone. Oh, that's the same weekend as Boston. Oh, that's hard. I'm not going to be there. Sorry, guys. Steven says the joys of home ownership. Yeah, I know. It kind of sucked. But yeah. Yeah, Alex says, yeah, that's the same weekend as Boston. I feel like Carmel Marathon would be a fun one to go to. It's a relatively easy drive for me. I think like 5 hours maybe. And Martha says, are you coming to Boston? I am going to Boston. Again, I'm not running. I'm hoping to do kind of a similar setup as last year. I guess we still have to finalize details, but I'm hoping to go again with, I will be doing something with Rabbit. I'll do my big shakeout with Rabbit, and then hopefully spend the rest of the weekend doing Adidas stuff with them, and hopefully I'll get access to that finish line area at the library. That was a really nice setup. And then this year, so last year, what my plan was, watch the elites come in and then leave the finish line area, the Adidas side of it, where like they can invite friends and family, and there's free food and bathrooms and all. It's really nice. And then I was going to leave that area and go find some cheer stations, just run for a couple miles backwards along the course and get to some cheer stations and follow people that way. But I had to stay there because someone from a brand was like, hey, would you like to interview one of our athletes that just finished? And I was like, yes, I would love to. And they were like, I'm trying to make it happen. Depends on how fast that person gets out of drug control, and then I'll call you. And so I waited for like a couple hours, and it ended up never happening. So this year, I'm just gonna be like, nope, not interested in an interview. I'm gonna get the elite athletes finish, and then I'm gonna leave and try to film everybody and get some more footage on course. So I also feel like I'd like to try and work with more of a team of people to get some more footage from around the course as well. And so we talked about it a little bit last time about the half marathon championships in Atlanta, March 2nd. So I don't know if I'm going, but I did reach out. So good news, bad news. Good news is my wife is okay with it. Also good news is I reached out to Atlanta Track Club and requested media credentials to get to the start and finish line. And they were so cool about it that I'm like, is this actually a yes or not? I'm not sure. Because I was like, I'm requesting media credentials. I do it my publication is YouTube. This is my channel. The footage I'm trying to create is like this. And I posted 5 links to like different races I've covered. And they were like, yeah, I'll put you down. I'll let you know more about it when we get closer. And I was like, is that a yes? So I don't know. So I think I have media credentials. So that's also good. Bad news is I reached out to Chase, my videographer, who I've worked with in Chicago and in Houston. He's going to be in Tokyo for the Tokyo Marathon. So, and I've been talking with Brian. So maybe we can work out some sort of plan. But I'm thinking about it. I'm leaning towards, yeah. But maybe we could put together. Oh, that reminds me. I got to talk to my manager about that. I have a call with her tomorrow. Let's try to put together a group run, but maybe we can have a brand get involved. Maybe we can have Adidas hook us up a little bit. So I don't know. And Brian said, I'll video for you. I think we might need more. I want to try to get more people. Because I know we were talking about scootering or e-biking around. I think they're just going to be so fast at the half, and there'll be men's and women's. So like one person can't. I think we need to have people at multiple parts of the course. One for men, one for women. You know, I don't know. I have to think about it. Pedro says you should come to the Atlanta Marathon. I'm running it. See, and then I'll watch the half marathon for the elites, and then I'll see everyone else finish the marathon. That's the plan, you know. So it'd be fun on a couple of levels. Yeah. Maddie Mac says, which USA Marathon is the best for spectating? Competition, expo, brand involvement, and the course? Chicago. I think Chicago is the best one for spectating. New York is also very good, but it's kind of hard to get around to all the port. You can't get to very many places on the course. You can't get to as many as Chicago. I don't know I think Indiana would probably be pretty good. I feel like it'd be easy to get around there, but I haven't looked at that course closely in a long time, and I've never spectated it myself. I think Houston is tough because it's one big loop, so there's not a lot of places where you can like cut across. So it makes it harder. I think that an ideal spectators loop would be something that's like a clover, kind of like Chicago is. So yeah. Stevie says, I ran 4:30 per mile for 5 seconds chasing Mans and almost died. I've tried doing that before too. 2 years ago when I filmed it, he was at the front of the pack at like mile 1. He stretched that pack out so far. It took up the entire frame of my video camera, you know. Yeah, I was winded. That was as hard as I could sprint. It's crazy. Peter says, a shakeout run in Atlanta with Coos? Maybe. We'll have to see. I'll talk to Brian about it. I have to decide if I'm going. And then I also need to talk to my manager about it. Adam's been dying to talk about Milrose. World records at Milrose. When was the last time an American held a distance world record? It was an incredible weekend for American distance running. Milrose is one of those meets where I'm like, should I go to New York? The Armory is relatively easy to get to from my parents' house in New Jersey, because they're just over the George Washington Bridge, and I feel like it'd actually be pretty easy for me to get there, and cheap for me to stay there. So I've been thinking about whether or not to go. I would just go as a fan. I wouldn't want to go with media credentials, although I'd want to bring my camera, but I have a feeling they wouldn't let me. Anyway, it'd be a fun meet to watch, I think. And this weekend would have been a great one to go to. I mean, watching that Grant Fisher race, Grant Fisher and Cole Hocker, him coming around that final turn, it was amazing. I was watching it, and all of a sudden I was like, oh. I was watching the replay, and I was like, oh. And my daughter was like, what are you watching? I'm like, this guy's just so fast. But I didn't watch the whole meet. I gotta admit. I didn't. But I did. I taped it. Is that still a word? It's on my... It's not even on a DVR. It's in my library in my YouTube TV. So I'll watch it later. But I've been really busy. I've been trying to get 2 weeks worth of work done in like 5 days. Because I need to make YouTube videos for this week. I need to make YouTube videos for next week. So that way when I'm gone in Africa, there's still YouTube videos to watch. So I've been just scrambling to get all this stuff done. So I don't know. Frank says that Dick Burkle had the indoor mile world record in 1978. I can't tell if that's actually trivia or if you're just trying to make me say a dirty word. Michael Concrite says, sorry to say that incorrectly. Michael Concrite says, Indy Marathon wasn't too hard to get around in a car. It was a runner and a spectator. Wish we rented e-bikes, though, to get from point to point. Yeah, see, I feel like that'd be the way. But here's the thing. I feel like right now, if I went to Atlanta, I would not pick an e-bike. I just feel like Asian dude on an e-bike is going to be off limits for a little while. Filming a race, you know what I mean? Maybe the scooter. The thing is, you can ride an e-bike and film. You can't really do that with a scooter. So I've been thinking about, like, do I need to learn how to ride a one wheel? I could ride a longboard, like I have a longboard. I don't skate a lot, but I have a longboard. I could probably figure out a boosted board, but even then, that's still you're holding something to make it go, and then a one wheel, you're just, I don't know. I feel like I'm asking for a broken collarbone if I get one of those, though. James Johnson wants to know, what is driving the new world records in your opinion? Super foams? Maybe a little bit. I think super foams are helping in the sense that I think that they're helping in the training. They're making the training more doable. You can do more. Your body can accept more load than it could before. I think the big thing, though, is that like we've learned a lot about training and what's good and what's not good. Like I know running has been different. And I think running and cycling, I think, are always ahead of the curve when it comes to endurance sports. But like I read the book Boys in the Boat. It's about rowing, right? And they would talk about how like the week of a national championship, they would go out there and row like mile repeats or whatever the equivalent is, just over and over again, trying to figure out like one to get ready for the race that's in 2 days. And the other is to like, there's a lot of like syncing up that's required. You have to be in the right rhythms. So who's in rhythm with who, But I'm just like, the idea that that's what you would do 2 days before a big race is bonkers now, right? And so I think a lot of that is like we understand peaking a little bit better. We understand training a little bit better. We understand nutrition a whole bunch better. That I think has a big impact on how the week to week and month to month goes. So I think that's what's driving a lot of world records. But also, I think world records lead to world records. Generally, in one way of speaking. Because like, I forget what I was reading. I think it was Steve Magnus. It's probably Steve Magnus that wrote about it. But they were saying like there's something about knowing that someone can run fast that does something to the people around them, right? And so like once Roger Bannister broke the 4 minute barrier, then a bunch did. Now, a lot of people were all chasing it at the same time. And so it's not that like Roger Bannister broke it and then the next day people were like, oh, I'll give it a shot. And then he did. It's not how it worked, but I feel like it opens the door of possibility. You know, the whole thing that Kipchoge was talking about. And why would you do a sub-2 novelty event if it didn't count as a world record? So you could open the door so someone else could walk through it. And so like the thing that Magnus, I think it was Magnus that wrote about, is like times for the fastest racehorses haven't changed. There's no like new world records for the fastest horses because horses aren't aware of what's possible. They just don't know. And so they can only run as fast as a horse can run. But a human can run as fast as another human, you know. As humans can run as fast as their, I guess, imagination can take them. You know, so I think there's a lot of things involved in it. Johnny Dodger says, late to the party with Rain to Japan. Been watching all the videos. Jake's total weekly monthly distance is nuts. Yeah, that dude's funny. I like him a lot. I like his train harder, not smarter mentality. I feel like that's the Japanese way. It's kind of like a smash everyone against the wall and see who survives kind of approach. Luckily, Japan has a lot of people willing to smash themselves against the wall, you know. But it's working for that culture. It's working for them. They have a very deep race. Like Rory was telling me in his interview that he came in like 14th or 23rd or something like that in a half marathon where he ran a 60:57. It was wild. Brian says for Atlanta, I need to partner with Big Peach Running Company. They have e-bikes for rent. Oh, they do? That's interesting. I think that my plan is going to be if I've been thinking about how I would film the USATF Half Marathon Championships. I want to do my stalker thing at the athlete hotel. So when they come out into the lobby, I see them before the race. And then I want to get the starting line. If I can get into the corrals with media credentials, even better. And then finish line. And then I'd like to have 2 points, at least, if not 3, in the middle. Just to get a sense of how the race is unfolding. You know, I don't know. TC says, do you think there'll be any issues with international runners coming to the U.S. for the next 4 years? I don't think so. Not from like a tourism perspective. Not people coming for races, but who knows? I mean, things are irrational and unpredictable. So, I don't know. My wife was like, are you going to have any problems getting into other countries right now or back from other countries? I'm like, I don't think so. Stevie76 says, why do most horses look so fit? Because they're on a stable diet. Martha says, do greyhounds know they're fast? Not all of them make the grade, and there are orgs that try to find adoptions for the quote-unquote losers. I'm sure certain greyhounds know that they're fast. I'm sure they know they are faster than other creatures out there. There used to be a lot of greyhounds in my neighborhood because of those rescues. Because there used to be a dog track up here in Arlington Heights. It's like next door to where my daughter goes rock climbing. And that's the location where they wanted to do the new Bear Stadium. I think they did horse and dog racing there. Is that right? Is that possible? But I thought that's the reason why there was always so many greyhounds in like Chicago. I'm like, why is there so many greyhounds here? Manny Mac wants to know, have I been following the Chipotle challenge on Run Steep Get High? It's wild. Yeah, I was following it for a while, and then I didn't see the last episode, but then I saw the results. But the last episode that I watched is when they were getting their cars towed, because they had been there for so long, and because they were parking like in random businesses, I think, or on the street, and they were getting their cars towed because they were spending so much time running that one segment over and over. But yeah, I like that kind of ultra running more than I like 100-mile races. Like I just watched. Well, let me explain. So Jamil was talking about like this could be the future. This is kind of fun. He was having a good time, at least it seemed from his videos. And saying like running the same like segment over and over a longer period of time was like a fun kind of endurance challenge. Now I think ideally it'd be more of like a 3-mile, 4-mile loop kind of thing would be better. So you're not running like a 3-block segment over and over again, or however long that segment was. But I like basically you made a stage race. It was like a stage backyard ultra kind of, and so that's kind of I like that. Because I just don't like running at night. And so like 100-mile race is not that appealing to me because of the night running part and the sleep deprivation part. It's a very different thing. I just watched Jeff Pelletier's High Lonesome 100 video. Aubrey ran it. That was really good. That rate, the video was so nice that I was like, oh, that looks like a race I might want to run. But then I have to keep reminding myself. It starts in Buena Vista, and then it goes up to 13,000 feet, which is 1,000 feet higher than I think I've ever been. 2,000 feet higher than I've ever been. I think 11,000 is the highest I've ever been, and that was hard. So I feel like it's not the race for me, but that race looked like it was a lot of fun. But most ultra or 100-mile race videos don't show you all of the nighttime running because cameras don't work at night. And so it's misleading, No Chrysostomo says, being a shoe tuber, do you still develop attachments to some shoes, or are they all just tools to you? A lot of them are just tools, and I'm just testing them out, seeing how they are, and then I move on to the next one. There are some that I definitely get attached to, especially ones if I've raced well in it, or if I put a lot of miles like in a certain block together in it, then I can become attached to them. Nova Blast 3, I'm particularly fond of. Most of the shoes that I have sentimental attachments to, though, are before I really became a shoe reviewer, though. So it makes it harder because you're not spending as much time with one shoe and not as much repeat time with one shoe. But yeah, it can still happen. James John says, why do you not like to run at night? Because you can't see, and I don't like being sleep deprived. That's it. I also think it's like unfortunate that a lot of ultra races of the 100-mile variety are typically held in beautiful places in the world. And if a lot of it's happening at night, it's all for nothing. You know what I mean? I'm also worried about that's when all the predators are active. That's when you're most likely to get hurt because not only are you tired and sleep deprived, but you can't see well. So I just feel like it's not great. I don't like running at night. And Alf says, do you miss the romance of falling in love with the shoe? I mean, there's still shoes that I love, but like I don't develop like a sentimental attachment. I mean, maybe we're splitting hairs here, but like I say I love a shoe all the time. I just filmed my Glycerin Max 100-mile review, and I said I love that shoe. But I'm not gonna be sentimental over it. I'm like, But although that one I feel like it marks a big deal for both Brooks and I think for Max Cushion. I think that's going to be, that may be a historically significant shoe, mildly historically significant shoe, Jacob D says, I was running in the morning and came face to face with a deer. It was terrifying. Man, I've been seeing so much wildlife out here. I mean, we've been here for a few years now, so it shouldn't be all that new, but like I'm seeing a lot of deer. Um, there's a flock of wild turkeys around here that hangs out, and I've coincidentally gotten really close to them a lot lately. Um, what other animals have I been seeing? Oh, there was a coyote the other day. Did I guys tell you this story? There's a coyote running around like the soccer fields where my daughter plays soccer. And I saw the coyote, and there was another guy walking his dog, and it was a real little dog. And I wasn't going to say anything to the guy when I first saw the guy at first because it looked like the coyote was running away, like away from the trails or the paths. They're not really trails. It's very flat and manicured. But then I saw he had this little dog, so I stopped and I was like, hey, just so you know, there's a coyote out there. I only mentioned it because you got a little buddy right there. But it is going the opposite direction. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but just want you to keep your eyes open. He's like, okay. So, yeah. All right. Where did that go from Frank? Frank says, what would be like top 5 historically significant shoes since like 2015? Okay. That makes it easier. Vaporfly, 4%. That I think is historically significant. I would say Nimbus Light is another one. I will say, for me, maybe not historic, that's not historically significant, but one that's always been significant for me is the Pegasus Shield, specifically the Pegasus 32 Shield. Where is it? Pegasus 33 Shield. This is the first shoe that I ran in all winter. The first time that I ran like all winter long, other than when I ran like indoor seasons, you know, but like when I was a road runner, this was the first one that I bought to get me through a winter. So that one's significant, sentimental attachment. I feel like the Nimbus Light is a significant one because that allowed ASICS to not keep making Trustic system shoes. And that is what started the turnaround for ASICS, I think. Let's see what else is there. I would say yeah, it's hard. I think Glycerin Max could certainly be one because it's just such a different shoe. Hoka 10.9. Yeah, I don't know. That's not really a historically significant shoe. That's a good one. That's a good question. I have to think about that. Brian says, "Is the Fast R historically significant?" The Fast R, I don't know. I don't think so because there have been like, what do they call it? Segmented shoes. There had been segmented shoes before. I don't know. It's a good question. One time he says the Adios. I think the Adios Pro could be maybe because we're talking about 2015. So there were just the regular Adios. I guess the regular Adios would have been 2015. The last one I tried was like the first Adios I tried. I think it was the Adios 4 that came out in 2020. So yeah, maybe those are there. Yeah, CV76 says first super trainer is significant. Guys, I don't like the term super trainer. I don't know what it means. Except that it's going to be expensive. It doesn't tell me what the shoe does or who's it for. Like all the other categories of shoes tell me what the shoe does. Daily trainer, max cushion, tempo, racer. But super trainer, you could have a super trainer that's a max cushion. Super trainer could include what? Deviate Nitro 3, Primex. Is Glycerin Max a super trainer? No plate. You know, like, I don't understand. I've never understood super trainer. It's just a word for like, it's got fancy, it's got new stuff in it. But that new stuff can't be the defining character of a shoe. That's weird, right? I don't understand what super trainer is. Um, that's a little side rant for me there. The other side rant I'm having on Threads is I really dislike all these silos that are coming out. Like the Nike silos drive me crazy. Yeah, like all these brand extensions I've never been a big fan of. Like series, like the Endorphin series, kind of makes sense and doesn't bother me. When you fully blow it out into an entire line, like Brooks has with the Max shoes, like New Balance does with Fuel Cell versus Fresh Foam X, that makes sense to me. But like the Nike silos make no sense to me. Someone needs to explain it better to me. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. I'm not trying to be obtuse on it, but like sometimes I feel like maybe I'm trying to be a little bit too obtuse on it and not giving it enough benefit of the doubt. But other times I'm like, no, I just don't get it. But yeah, that's been a rant for me over on Threads. Yeah. And Buyer says, like, I prefer the term performance trainer over super trainer. I don't really know what performance trainer means either. You know, unless it's like a modifier, like as a category, like I don't understand. You know, people have tried explaining it to me a lot of different ways. Calvin's saying high stack plated trainer to fit between daily and super shoe. Super trainer probably rolls off the tongue easier. I mean, you're describing like tempo shoes, you know, but like, is the Prime X a super trainer? Is the Neo Vista a super trainer? It's priced like one. Is the Mag Max a super trainer? I don't know. Or a performance trainer? So I don't know. So I'll say things like, you know, like heavily cushioned daily trainer. When a shoe is like in between daily trainer and max cushion, like the 1080-14, you know? So I've used these kind of like, kind of modifiers, but I just have a hard time with super trainer. Like Alex Felitti made like a ranking of his favorite super trainers, and I saw the reel and I was just like, I'm so confused as to what a super trainer is based on the shoes that are on this list. Like, I don't know. Matthias says, I see your point on super trainer. To me, they seem like budget race shoes, but I feel like a lot of the things that they call super trainers are not budget race. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too picky. You know. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting ranty, but you know, I think it's because I'm hungry. I gotta go find something to eat. This Immi noodles was okay. Maybe we'll try another flavor. I feel like there's a tom yum shrimp flavor in there. I feel like that, based on the flavor profile I got from the beef, I feel like that's going to be the one. So maybe we'll try that again next time on Thursday. We'll try another one, even though it's not a Monday. We'll try it again, and I'll actually cook it for real instead of doing it the way I did, just to give it a better shot. So we'll try it again. All right. Nimbus 27 video came out today. There'll be another video out on Thursday. Hopefully you guys will watch that and like it. But I'll see you guys again soon. But that'll be the last one for like a week, maybe a little bit more, because I'll be gone after that. So hopefully see you guys then. All right, guys. Be safe out there, everybody.